Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone who would like to join us. We are back. I'm Philip Baker. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the host of the Church of the Firstborn. We've been reading in the ancient book of Jasher. If you would like to join me, you're welcome. I welcome everyone. I'd like to also invite those of you to come in, join the crowd if you want to. Love to have you. I am a Messianic. I believe in God and the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach. You're welcome to join. I'd like to invite everyone to check out my videos, and if you like my content, subscribe. And if you like it, leave me a thumbs up. I'm also on here every morning for devotionals. If you want to join in, try to do it for those of you getting ready to go to work. Stuff to give you something to think about during the day. But we are in the 13th chapter of the book of Jasher. The title of this is Abram in Canaan. Verse 1. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, the wife of his son Abram. And all the souls of his household went with them from Ur of the Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. When they came as far as the land of Haran, they remained there, for it was exceeding good land. Oh, I forgot. All right, I'm back. Start again. And the people of the land of Haran saw that Abram was good and upright with God and men, and that the Lord his God was with him. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined Abram, and he taught them the instruction of the Lord in his ways. And these men remained with Abram in his house, and they adhered to him. Abram remained in the land 3 years. And at the expiration of 3 years, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee forth from Ur Kasdim, and delivered thee from the hand of all thine enemies. And now therefore, if thou wilt hearken to my voice, and keep my commandments and statutes and my laws, then will I cause thy enemies to fall before thee. And I will multiply thy seed like the stars of heaven. And I will send my blessing upon all the works of thy hands, and thou shalt lack nothing. Arise now, take thy wife and all belonging to thee, and go into the land of Canaan and remain there. And I will there be unto thee for a God, and I will bless thee. And Abram rose and took his wife and all belonging to him. And he went to the land of Canaan. And the Lord told him. And Abram was 55 years old when he went from Haran. And Abram came to the land of Canaan and dwelt in the midst of the city. And he there pitched his tent among the children of Canaan, inhabitants of the land. And the Lord appeared to Abram when he came to the land of Canaan, and said to him, This is the land which I gave unto thee and to thy seed after thee forever. And I will make thy seed like the stars of heaven. And I will give unto thy seed for an inheritance all the lands which thou seest. And Abram built an altar in the place where God had spoken to him. And Abram there called upon the name of the Lord. 2006, Anno Mundi, Noah died. At that time, at the end of 3 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, in that year Noah died, which was the 58th year of the life of Abram. And all the days that Noah lived were 950 years, and he died. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, he, his wife, and all belonging to him, and all those that accompanied him together with those that joined him from the people of the land. But Nahor, Abram's brother, and Terah his father, and Lot the son of Haran, and all belonging to them dwelt in Haran. 2008, Anno Mundi, Sodom and Gomorrah revolt. In the 5th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the cities of the plain revolted from the power of Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. For all the kings of the cities of the plain had served Chedorlaomer for 12 years, and given him a yearly tax. But in those days, in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. 2013, Anno Mundi, Elam conquers Babel. And in the 10th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, there was a war between Nimrod, king of Shinar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. And Nimrod came to fight with Chedorlaomer and subdue him. For Chedorlaomer was at that time one of the princes of the host of Nimrod. When all the people at the tower were dispersed, those that remained were also scattered upon the face of the earth. Chedorlaomer went to the land of Elam and reigned over it, and rebelled against his Lord. In those days when Nimrod saw that the cities of the plain had rebelled, he came with pride and anger to war with Chedorlaomer. Nimrod assembled all his princes and subjects, about 700,000 men, and went against Chedorlaomer. Chedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men. And they prepared for battle in the valley of Babel, which is between Elam and Shinar. And all those kings fought there. And Nimrod and his people were smitten before the people of Chedorlaomer. And there fell from Nimrod's men about 600,000. And Mardon, the king's son, fell among them. Nimrod fled and returned in shame and disgrace to his land. And he was under subjection to Chedorlaomer for a long time. And Chedorlaomer returned to his land, and sent princes of his host to the kings that dwelt around him, to Arioch king of Elazar, and to Tidal king of Goyim, and made a covenant with them. And they were all obedient to his commands. 2018 Nanomandai, the 430-year prophecy given. And it was in the 15th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 70th year of the life of Abram. And the Lord appeared to Abram in that year, and he said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee out from Ur-Kasdim, and to give thee this land for an inheritance. Now therefore walk before me, and be perfect, and keep my commands. For to thee and to thy seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river Euphrates. And thou shalt come to thy fathers in peace and good age, and the fourth generation shall return here in this land, and shall inherit it forever. And Abram built an altar, and he called upon the name of the Lord who appeared to him. And he brought up sacrifices upon the altar to the Lord. 2023 Anomandai, Abram moves back to Haran. At that time Abram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother, and his father's household. And Abram and his wife and all belonging to him returned to Haran, and Abram dwelt in Haran 5 years. Many people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Abram, and Abram taught them the instruction of the Lord in his ways, and he taught them to know the Lord. 2023 Anomandai, Abram returns to Canaan at age 75. In those days the Lord appeared to Abram in Haran. He said to him, Behold, I spoke unto thee these 20 years back, saying, Go forth from thy land, from thy birthplace, and from thy father's house, to the land which I have shown to thee, to give it to thee and to thy children. For there in that land will I bless thee, and make thee a great nation, and make thy name great. And in thee shall the families of the earth be blessed. Now therefore arise, go forth from this place, thou, thy wife, and all belonging to thee, also every one born in thy house, and all the souls thou hast made in Haran, and bring them out with thee from here, and rise to return to the land of Canaan. And Abram arose and took his wife Sarai, and all belonging to him, and all that were born to him in his house, and the souls which they had made in Haran. And they came out to go to the land of Canaan. And Abram went and returned to the land of Canaan according to the word of the Lord. And Lot the son of his brother Haran went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he went from Haran to return to the land of Canaan. And he came to the land of Canaan according to the word of the Lord to Abram. And he pitched his tent, and he dwelt in the plain of Mamre. And with him was Lot his brother's son, and all belonging to him. And the Lord again appeared to Abram, said, To thy seed will I give this land. And he there built an altar to the Lord who appeared to him, which is still to this day in the plains of Mamre. Hi, Susan Marie. Good to see you, sister. Hope you're having a good evening. Welcome. I'm reading the book of Jasher. Don't open the door and let some air in, so his phone hopefully won't get hot. Anyone's out there, come on in. You're all welcome. Chapter 14, Pharaoh Rechaim. But he was poor and indigent. His name was Rechaim, and he was set to support off to go to Egypt, for perhaps he might find grace in his sight to raise him up and give him maintenance. And Rechaim did so. And when the inhabitants of Egypt concerning the custom of the king of Egypt, that when he went from his royal palace and was seen come into the presence of the sorrowful. And in the evening Rechaim went out and found a house in ruins, formerly a bakehouse in Egypt. And he abode there all night in bitterness of soul and pinched with hunger, and sleep was removed from his eyes. He made his appearance, and how he might maintain himself there. Found and met in his way those who sold vegetables and various sorts of seed with which they supplied the inhabitants. And Rechaim wished to do the same in order to get a maintenance in the city, but he was unacquainted with the custom of the people, and he was like a blind man among them. And he went and obtained vegetables to sell them for his support. And second night. And on that night he reasoned within himself how he could save himself from starvation. And he devised a scheme how to act. And he rose up in the morning and acted ingeniously, and went and hired 30 strong men of the rabble, carrying their war instruments in their hands. And he led them to the top of the Egyptian sepulchre, and he placed, saying, Thus saith the king, and let no man be buried here until 200 pieces of silver be given, and then he may be buried. And those men did according to the order of Rechaim to the people of Egypt the whole of that year. And in 8 months' time Rechaim and his men gathered great riches of silver and gold. And Rechaim took a great quantity of horses and other animals, and he hired more men, and he gave them horses, and they remained with him. And when the year came round at that time, the king went forth into the town. All the inhabitants of Egypt assembled together to speak to him concerning the work of Rechaim and his men. And the king went forth on the appointed day, and all the Egyptians came before him and cried unto him, saying, May the king live forever. What is this thing thou doest in the town to thy servants, not to suffer a dead body to be buried until so much silver and gold be given? Was there ever the like unto this done in the whole earth from the days of the former kings, yea, even from the days of Adam unto this day, that the dead should not be buried only for a set price? We know it to be the custom of kings to take a yearly tax from the living. But thou dost not only do this, but from the dead also thou exactest a tax day by day. Now, O king, we can no more bear this, for the whole city is ruined on this account. And dost thou not know it? And when the king heard all that they had spoken, he was very wroth, and his anger burned with him at this affair, for he had known nothing of it. And the king said, Who and where is he that dareth to do this wicked thing in my land without my command? Surely you will tell me. And they told him all the works of Ricion and his men, and the king's anger was aroused. And he ordered Ricion and his men to be brought before him. Ricion took about 1,000 children, sons and daughters, and clothed them in silk and embroidery. He set them upon horses, and sent them to the king by means of his men. And he also took a great quantity of silver and gold and precious stones, and a strong and beautiful horse, as a present for the king, with which he came before the king and bowed down to the earth before him. And the king, his servants, and all the inhabitants of Egypt wondered at the work of Ricion. And they saw his riches and the present that he had brought to the king. And it greatly pleased the king, and he wondered at it. And when Ricion sat before him, the king asked him concerning all his works. And Ricion spoke all his words wisely before the king, his servants, and all the inhabitants of Egypt. When the king heard the words of Ricion and his wisdom, Ricion, and he met with grief. And the king answered and said to Ricion, Thy name shall no more be called Ricion, but Pharaoh shall be thy name, since thou didst exact a tax from the dead. And he called his name Pharaoh. And the king and his subjects loved Ricion for his wisdom, and they consulted with all the inhabitants of Egypt to make him prefect under the king. And all the inhabitants of Egypt and its wise men did so, and it was made a law in Egypt. And they made Ricion Pharaoh prefect under Ahasuerus, king of Egypt. And Ricion Pharaoh governed over Egypt, daily administering justice to the whole city. But Ahasuerus the king would judge the people of the land one day in the year, when he went out to make his appearance. Oh, I'm doing fine, Susan. Good to see you here. Second, Egypt dynasty begins. And Ricion Pharaoh cunningly usurped the government of Egypt, and he exacted a tax from all the inhabitants of Egypt. And all the inhabitants of Egypt greatly loved Ricion Pharaoh, and they made a decree to call every king that should reign over them and their seed in Egypt Pharaoh. Therefore all the kings that reigned in Egypt from that time forward were called Pharaoh unto this day. Chapter 15, Abram in Egypt, the famine. In 2023, a great famine. And in that year there was a heavy famine throughout the land of Canaan, and the inhabitants of the land could not remain on account of the famine, for it was very grievous. And Abram and all belonging to him rose and went down to Egypt on account of the famine. And when they were at the brook Mitzrim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of the road. And Abram and Sarai were walking at the border of the brook Mitzrim. And Abram beheld his beautiful wife Sarai, that she was very beautiful. And Abram said to his wife Sarai, Since God has created thee with such a beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Egyptians, lest they should slay me and take thee away, for the fear of God is not in these places. Surely then thou shalt do this. Say thou art my sister to all that may ask thee, and with him to Egypt on account of the famine. Also his name, she is the sister in the chest, and concealed it among their vessels. For Abram was greatly concerned about Sarai on account of the wickedness of the Egyptians. And Abram and all belonging to him rose up from the brook Mitzrim and came to Egypt. And they had scarcely entered the gates of the city when the guards stood up to them, saying, Give tithe to the king from what you have. And then and those that were with him did so. And Abram with the people that were with him came to Egypt. And when they came, they brought the chest in which and Pharaoh's officers answered Abram, It is a chest of precious stones. Give us the tenth thereof. To see Sarah. Officers ran and told Pharaoh all that they had seen. And they praised Sarah, her to be brought, and the woman came before the king. And Pharaoh beheld Sarah exceedingly, and he was greatly on her account, and made presents to those who brought him the tidings concerning her. And the woman was he prayed to the Thou didst tell my lord Abram to go from his land and from his father's house to the land of Canaan. Thou didst promise to do well with him, if he would perform thy command. Now behold, we have done that which and in our we have not known before. And we came to this land to famine. All right, sorry. Neighbor's dog trying to get in my door. And we came to this land to avoid the famine, and the evil accident has befallen me. Now therefore, O Lord, deliver us and save us from the hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of thy mercy. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and the Lord sent an angel to deliver Sarai from the power of Pharaoh. And the king came and sat before Sarai. And behold, an angel of the Lord was standing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, Do not fear, for the Lord has heard thy prayer. And the king approached Sarai and said to her, What is that man to thee who brought thee hither? And she said, He is my brother. And the king said, It is incumbent upon us to make him great, to elevate him and do unto him all the good which thou shalt command us. And at that time the king sent to Abram silver and gold, and precious stones in abundance, together with cattle, men servants and maid servants. And the king ordered Abram to be brought. And he sat in the court of the king's house. And the king greatly exalted Abram on that night. And the king approached to speak to Sarai. And he reached out his hand to touch her, when the angel smote him heavily. And he was terrified, and he refrained from reaching to her. When the king came near to Sarai, the angel smote him to the ground, and acted thus to him the whole night, and the king was terrified. Excuse me. And the angel on that night smote heavily all the servants of the king, and his whole household, on account of Sarai. There was a great lamentation that night amongst the people of Pharaoh's house. And Pharaoh, seeing the evil that befell him, said, Surely on account of this woman has this thing happened to me. And he removed himself at some distance from her, and spoke pleasing words to her. And the king said to Sarai, Tell me, I pray thee, concerning the man with whom thou camest here. Sarai said, This man is my husband. And I said to thee that he was my brother, for I was afraid, lest thou shouldst put him to death through wickedness. And the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the angel of the Lord ceased from him and his household. And Pharaoh knew that he was smitten on account of Sarai, and the king was greatly astonished at this. And in the morning the king called for Abram, and said to him, What is this thou hast done to me? What didst thou say, She is my sister, on to which I took her unto me for a wife? This heavy plague has therefore come upon me and my household. Now therefore here is thy wife. Take her and go from our land, lest we all die on her account. Fatal and silver and gold to give to Abram, and he returned unto him Sarai his wife. And the king took a maiden whom he begat by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the king said to his daughter, Is it better for thee, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house, than to be mistress in my house, after we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman? And Abram arose, and he and all belonging to him, and went from Egypt. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. And Abram returned to the land of Canaan, to the place where he had made the altar, where he at first had pitched his tent. And Lot the son of Haran, Abram's brother, had a heavy stock of cattle, flocks and herds and tents, for the Lord was bountiful to them on account of Abram. And when Abram was dwelling in the land of the herdsmen, the flock quarreled with the herdsmen of Abram, for their property was too great for them to remain together in the land, and the land could not bear them on account of their cattle. And when Abram's herdsmen went to feed their flock, they would not go into the fields of the people of the land. But the cattle of Lot's herdmen did otherwise, for they were suffered to feed in the fields of the people of the land. And the people of the land saw his occurrence daily. They came to Abram and quarreled with him on account of Lot's herdsmen. And Abram said to Lot, What is this thou art doing to me to make me despicable to the inhabitants of the land, that thou orderest thy herdsmen to feed thy cattle in the fields of other people? Dost thou not know that I am a stranger in this land amongst the children of Canaan? And why wilt thou do this unto me? And Abram quarreled daily with Lot on account of this. But Lot would not listen to Abram, and he continued to do the same. And the inhabitants of the land came and told Abram. And Abram said unto Lot, How long wilt thou be to me for a stumbling block with the inhabitants of the land? Now I beseech thee, let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. But I pray thee, separate from me, and go and choose a place where thou mayest dwell with thy cattle, and all belonging to thee. But keep thyself at a distance from me, thou and thy household. And be not afraid in going from me, for if anyone do an injury to thee, let me know, and I will avenge thy cause from him. Only remove from me. When Abram had spoken all these words to Lot, then Lot arose and lifted up his eyes toward the plain of Jordan. And he saw that the whole land of this place was well watered and good for man, as well as affording pasture for the cattle. And Lot went from Abram to that place, and he pitched his tent, and he dwelt in Sodom, and they were separated from each other. And Abram dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron. And he pitched his tent there, and Abram remained in that place many years. Well, what do y'all think so far? I love reading these stories like this about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all of them. Yeah. It's a good book. I love it. Well, looks like you're the only one here today. I figured there'd be more people here, but that's okay. I don't care. See my video earlier today? Excuse me. I was one angry cat this morning. I tell you, things they do here in the United States gets on my nerves sometimes. I love my country, but I don't like what's going on in it. But I was one angry man after the news. But if you didn't see that video, take a gander at it later. But that's all I have for today. We'll read some more tomorrow. But I hope you're having a good evening. I hope everyone's having a good evening. But I'm going to get off here, and hopefully and those of you that are on here, If you don't know Colin James McIntosh, come on and join us. Sometimes he's on here around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. You can join us together. He also welcomes everyone. So, should be on here tonight, I don't know. But if he is, I'll see y'all there at 8 o'clock. I love y'all. God bless you. Have a good evening until then. And bye for now. See you tomorrow.